I've never really thought much about makeup. Growing up, I never really had any experiences with it, as I've only had brothers. And any knowledge I did have about makeup was secondhand, only when my female friends would talk about it. I don't know a lot about makeup. That's just the society that I'm in. I didn't really need to know. Which is why the Webtoon original series, The Makeup Remover, might be a surprising series for me to read, enjoy, and talk about. There are a lot of different series that focus on makeup, True Beauty being one of the more popular ones. However, The Makeup Remover goes all in with makeup, as all of our plots have to do with the concept of makeup. Makeup as a product and makeup as a more metaphorical concept. Our main plot deals with a makeup contest, choosing the next face of makeup, or something along those lines. Unsurprisingly, the series likes to talk a lot about makeup, often giving readers helpful tips and tricks that I have no idea if they're true, but I read it on a webtoon, so it must be true. But what I'm more interested in are the themes and characters, and their central relation to makeup. I'll touch on the theme of makeup at the end, so let's go through our 4 most important characters. The Makeup Remover has a cast of revolving door characters. Characters that are important for an arc, then kind of fade away. However, our 4 important characters have been with us since the beginning. Let's start with our main character, Yeseul. Yeseul went her whole life focusing on her future, on college, on getting an education, on eventually getting a good career. And it's a noble pursuit. However, while everyone encouraged her at the beginning, they kind of went the other way when she made it to college, questioning why she doesn't try, why she doesn't put on makeup or try a little harder on her looks. Which is incredibly confusing to her, as she can't change how she looks overnight. Not to mention, why should it matter? Yeseul is a talented photographer, and not to mention a cool person. But due to the expectations of the world, she also has to match the world's standard of beauty. This is why her involvement in the makeup contest is so great, but I'll get to that later. And while she is a model, she has to be convinced to join by Yusong, our spectacular makeup artist. Now, I do have to admit, expectations don't play as much as a role in Yusong's life, or at least not as clear. As our main character's makeup artist, he plays a giant role in the series. However, unlike our main character and our other 2 important characters, expectations aren't really placed onto him. It could have been very easy too. He's a guy doing makeup. There are a lot of people who believe that it's just a feminine thing. However, they don't really push that. Instead, Yusong is more of a vehicle for expectations. Since he doesn't have a ton of expectations placed onto him, he's the one who makes expectations clear, helping people understand and break those expectations, or is even guilty of placing expectations onto people. For example, the preliminary rounds, the challenge that get them into the competition. They decide they want to go for a strong, fierce female warrior. As we hear Yusong explain, makeup that looks good even with wounds. Yup. I think it'll be better if we lean into it and make the concept centered around that. I thought of a strong and sexy warrior woman concept. And the design looks great. And Yeseul is on board for the concept, however raises a good question. Why does she have to be sexy? Which is a good point. A warrior woman doesn't go for her look for her outward appearance. She dresses the way she does because it's the best choice for her. It makes her look stronger, more intimidating, fiercer, and such. She's not planning on attracting her opponents. I love this moment. It's not shaming Yusong for his idea. In fact, they go for a warrior woman concept, and it's amazing. Instead, Yeseul makes a point to ask questions to guide Yusong's questioning. Why does he think the way he thinks? Why did he link strong and sexy when he was talking about warrior women? The answer is, understandably, expectations. That's why. as strong and sexy has always been linked when talking about warrior women. And it's not that Yu Song is to blame for this. It's more that he can be led into a different and better mindset. But that does bring us to our other two important characters, Hee-won and Sun-woo. These two characters are great to discuss alongside the topic of expectations, because there are two different types of expectations placed on them. The world's expectations and our own. Hee-won and Sun-woo are presented in the first episode as main characters, as our main character Yeseul calls them main characters and calls herself extra number 1. These two are difficult to explain. It's not that they're perfect, but they're presented as being superior than the rest, and our initial expectations on them are very interesting. Hee-won is presented in a more prideful kind of way. Her actions, her words, her demeanor sometimes, I kind of expected her to be more of a rival to our main character. But as the series progresses, we get more and more of Hee-won. And she's super cool. That pride I mentioned is more of a hardened exterior due to the world. Due to her beauty, she faces a lot of different problems. From people talking behind her back to people literally trying to drug her in broad daylight like what the heck. Due to the world's expectations of beauty she hasn't matched, they expect more of her, which is insane, but that's unfortunately just how the world works. So while at the beginning she's a little cold, as the series continues we see a lot more of her, as she opens up to the audience and to Yeseul, someone she deems cool, someone she deems as trustworthy enough to be her friend. And I love watching their friendship grow. But where the series takes an interesting deviation is Sun-woo. Sun-woo opens up as Yeseul's one-sided crush, as she views him as if he's in a different world. And it's easy to see why so many people fall in love with him. He's attractive, charming, helpful, fun, talented, and has a really warm aura. But what I love is that due to that, our and the world's expectations of him are incredibly positive. We assume he'd be a cool person, someone who will see Yeseul and fall for her, as many other webtoon series have done. But what's interesting is that he's the opposite of Hee-won. As the series continues, we see more and more of him. Whether it be alone or in weird moments talking about ducks, he kind of starts to become worse, for a lack of a better term. Something I haven't mentioned is that most of these characters are into photography. They're in photography classes. And we see a weird moment where Sun-woo is jealous of Yeseul's skill when it comes to photography, actively pushing her efforts aside in favor of his own. I also mentioned ducks, and that weird spectacular delve into expectations, and Yeseul and Sun-woo's thoughts on expectations. They use the metaphor of a duck, how it's actually quite difficult to keep themselves afloat, and how they look graceful even while struggling. This is the question of how do we view effort, pain, and difficulties? Do the expectations we place onto people stay there, or should we remove them to show how much pain they're in? And Sun-woo has a strange answer. Think about it. If you could see how they're actually struggling in an ungainly way to appear graceful, would you continue to think that they are beautiful? I think everyone wants others to see only the parts they want to show. Because after all, people only love the parts which are beautiful. I understand this way of thinking, but it's a dangerous way to think. By ignoring what we deem not beautiful, we willingly ignore a lot of pain, a lot of difficulty, and a lot of strife that people go through. Which is why that makeup contest is so interesting. Because our main characters go out of their way to shake things up. Every round they choose to make a statement with their choice. Let's just talk about the first round. As it's based on the color red, they each have to style their model with red representation. After some problems occur, our main characters are unfortunately out of red. So instead, they play to people's expectations, putting on green lipstick and taking a photo in black and whites. This photo was meant to play our expectations. As Yeseul explains, those lips aren't actually red. Then why do we think they're red? The reason is simple. It's because red is the most common lipstick color. I wanted people to think about why this photo would be considered red, and why we always choose red as the color for our lips, and why we look at everyone putting on the same kind of makeup and consider it an expression of their individuality. I wanted to challenge stereotypes. Which leads us to our last point, the title of the series, The Makeup Remover? Why? The series is about putting on makeup, right? Well, you're not wrong. The series is about putting on makeup, but more importantly, it's about challenging stereotypes, challenging expectations. Makeup is a difficult subject for me to talk about, since I do feel like anything I say might be wrong. But makeup often plays into expectations. The series isn't about taking off makeup. In fact, if anything, it's about how makeup can make people feel stronger. No, it's about removing expectations. Removing the expectations we've placed onto beauty, onto style, onto attitude, onto makeup. It's not removing makeup, it's removing expectations. But that's just what I think. What about you? How do you feel about the makeup remover? Leave it in the comments below. But, like always, thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you next week.